Now, if you couldn't tell from the intro of this video, I'm a huge fan of the Ghostbusters. The movies, the toys, the cartoons, but I never got into any of the video games. I never had them as a kid. But that's all about to change. Today I'm going to be reviewing for you Ghostbusters the video game. I'm going to be doing the PC version that was developed by Terminal Reality and published by Atari. Now, I know there were multiple versions of this game released. For example, the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 versions that had multiplayer support, and the PlayStation 2, Wii, and Nintendo DS versions that had a totally different cartoony vibe to them that were called the stylized versions, and a slightly different campaign, where the DS version had the most differences, where it resembled the old Activision games for the Nintendo Atari and things like that. I won't be talking about those, though.
When you start the career mode, you are informed that the game takes place in 1991, 2 years after the events of Ghostbusters 2, and are favored with a remake of the Ghostbusters commercial from the first film, and then some exposition as the security guard is investigating the Gozer exhibit at the museum.
He's informed that the donator of the entire exhibit, Ivo Shandor, the crazed architect that designed Dana Barrett's apartment in the first Ghostbusters movie, was into the occult and magic.
That's when a woman appears out of the darkness and runs out of the exhibit, as the guard is overtaken by something, and a fog fills the street around the museum. This cues the theme music, which fortunately is the Ray Parker Jr. Ghostbusters theme.
You heard right, this game features the original motion picture soundtrack, which means it still retains that fine line between creepy and goofy that we've come to expect from the original films, excluding that god-awful Run DMC Ghostbusters 2 theme. But anyway, there's more that I want to praise about the first 2.5 minutes of this game, the voiceover cast.
All the characters from the movies have reprised their roles with few exceptions. Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis wrote the game as well as reprising their roles as Ray Stantz and Egon Spengler. Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, and Annie Potts also reprised their roles as Peter Venkman, Winston Zeddemore, and Janine Melnitz, respectively. Rick Moranis and Sigourney Weaver's characters never even show up, and the Mayor's character is completely replaced by Brian Doyle Murray, who plays Mayor Jock Mulligan.
The dialogue is great, and though it mostly refers to elements from the films, it fits the context of the game because a lot of the game is lifted straight from the film. There are some canned lines from the AI during battle that might get a little annoying, but it's basically just the Ghostbusters trying to let you know where the ghosts are in relation to you. So it is kind of useful while still being kind of repetitive and annoying.
Gameplay begins with you being a new hire for the Ghostbusters. They decide almost immediately that you will be their experimental equipment technician. Basically a guinea pig for new technology that Egon has come up with, but he hasn't had a chance to test yet. They've also decided to not learn your name, for the possibility that something may happen to you.
You can't use Ray. Our mortgage is in his name.
So as your tutorial, Slimer has escaped his containment after a mysterious dispersion of energy, and you have to assist the other Ghostbusters in catching him. You're introduced to how to use your proton pack, as it serves as the HUD for your health and how much heat your proton stream is putting out. You are also instructed on how to use the capture stream and ghost traps.
The equipment is probably the greatest part about the game. I mean, I would have been happy with just the proton stream, the capture stream, the ghost traps, and maybe even the slime blower from Ghostbusters 2.
But as the resident guinea pig, you get equipped with boson darts, the shock blast, the stasis stream, the slime tether, the meson collider, and the overload pulse. As you're using these weapons, you have to keep an eye on your proton pack. Though you don't have to reload ammo, the game does give you the challenge of not being able to just constantly output damage by making you have to release the heat buildup in your proton pack, thus adding a little strategic element as you have to utilize cover to vent your pack.
Now, on to ghost trapping.
This has a really satisfying feel to it. It's not incredibly hard, but it's not super easy either. The ghost may slip out of the trap cone from you overcompensating your movements, or just making its way out. It feels good to capture ghosts because it's just bright and flashy and has that familiar beeping sound when you do get it. There are also item upgrades available for all your different weapons and traps. You gain money through capturing ghosts and collecting cursed artifacts. I'll talk about artifacts later.
You could say, bustin' makes me feel good.
Your first mission is to go to the Hotel Sedgwick to capture Slimer, since that's where he manifested initially. It's a bit pulled straight from the movie, except a conversation between the Ghostbusters and the hotel manager establishes that they have been there a few times since. You run into the woman from the intro video who blows you off before you continue your pursuit of Slimer. You are then introduced to your PKE meter that you use to find out where he's hiding.
This is odd for a couple reasons, because in the movies, Egon was the only one to use the PKE meter.
Now all the Ghostbusters have one, and yours is only usable through your goggles. Your PKE meter is used as not only a ghost detection device, but it also functions as a spirit guide. You find something, get a scan of it, and it'll give you all the information on what type of ghost it is and what its weaknesses are. It also has a mode that allows you to find cursed artifacts. Cursed artifacts are bonus items that you can collect to make extra money, such as the toaster of Sights Unseen, the seat of Vaporous Fowl, or the remote-controlled Ecto-1. They all have strange properties involving being possessed or cursed in some way that shows up on your PKE meter when you collect them.
When you return to the station, you can interact with them, as they just kind of have them laying around.
After Venkman gets slimed a second time in practically the same fashion as the first, you find there are more ghosts in the hotel. After you take them down, you discover the Alhambra Ballroom, where Slimer was finally captured in the first movie. When being told you couldn't go in, you attempt to find another entrance and discover a black slime that is accumulating throughout the hotel, and this is allowing more ghosts to enter into this world. After recapturing Slimer, you are again confronted by the manager, whom you inform that all the damage caused by the Ghostbusters is covered by the city. An angry fisherman ghost rushes past the screen, which you are then sent to pursue with Egon. The two of you get separated when the fisherman ghost destroys a stairwell and you are sent alone. As you chase after him, the floor you're on fills with water and is taken over by an oceanic environment. You track him to a bar and have a brief battle with him before he disappears and the other Ghostbusters come to join you. The fisherman ghost reappears with a minion made of random stuff in the room. After you take them both down, you are contacted by Winston, who lets you know that a familiar foe has appeared.
Mr. Stay Puft.
This prompts you to leave the hotel and begin the Times Square stage, where you are informed about the Super Slammer that has been installed on top of the Ecto-1.
Is it just me, or does the Super Slammer resemble the Ghost Vacuum from the 80s era games?
You have to clear a path for the Ecto-1 to get to Stay Puft to use the Super Slammer on. In this stage, you're attacked by ghosts and gargoyles. You push the ghosts into the Super Slammer while slamming the gargoyles with your capture beam until they disperse.
Interesting.
You find that the marshmallow goo that is left all over the city is blocking your road, so you and Winston are set off to find a shortcut to Stay Puft. After making your way through a haunted laundromat, you find a crashed tanker pouring gas all over the other side of the offending goo pile. This is where you get your boson darts to blast away the obstacle. This leads you to Hindenburg the Opera, where you find more black slime and are confronted by several singing ghosts that you have to take down. After continuing through the cutscene, you find Stay Puft again, who seems to be looking for something.
Is he looking for something or someone?
You were sent with Ray to find what the monster is looking for. He sends little dog-sized marshmallow creatures after you as you duck into a building that he seems to be targeting. Ray tells you you need to get into the top floors. More marshmallow minions flood in that you have to defeat before you continue to find Dr. Alyssa Selwyn, voiced by Alyssa Milano, who is obviously the one Stay Puft is pursuing. Venkman joins you, and your next goal is to get out of the building. You find that there's no way down, so you have to head up to the roof. Once there, you have to capture more ghosts, then knock Stay Puft off the building. After doing so, he climbs back up, and you fall off. Being held in midair, you battle Stay Puft alone, firing boson darts at him while evading waves of marshmallow minions. After defeating him, you find out why Alyssa was in the building just now, and why she was in the museum during the intro video.
She's apparently the replacement to the Dana Barrett character, which means we all know where this is going to lead. Venkman's going to hit on her, and then she's going to be the major focal point of the whole story.
They take her back to the firehouse, and this is the first time you get to wander around and check it out. The cursed artifacts you've picked up are here for you to see, as well as a portrait of Vigo in the reception area that you can interact with. It spouts off nonsense about gaining enough power to escape again, but it's just an Easter egg.
This is obviously an inconsistency, since the painting of Vigo turned into a painting of the Ghostbusters at the end of the second film. Though it is funny, since he says stuff like, in the future you'll no longer be paying $1.45 for a gallon of gas.
Once you've had your fun, you head over to where the other Ghostbusters and Alyssa have gathered to find out that she's a specialist in ancient Mesopotamian culture and architecture, and as such is in town as a guest curator for the opening of the Gozer exhibit, which the Ghostbusters weren't invited to. Enter Walter Peck, voiced by the original actor from the first movie, William Atherton, and Mayor Jock Mulligan to gloat about how all this was a great publicity stunt for the museum and the mayor's campaign. He announces that Walter Peck is now in charge of the Ghostbusters to allow the Ghostbusters to gain more work and steady contracts, though really the mayor just wants to look good, while Peck just wants the Ghostbusters to be shut down.
After the incident in the first Ghostbusters movie, Walter Peck still has a job? The man set in motion what many believe to be the biblical apocalypse.
Anyway, your next course of action is to investigate the public library. The first thing you notice is that one of the lion statues in front of the building is missing, and two ghosts burst out of the lion statue and head into the library, and you have to chase them. After the ghosts escape, the group leaves you to take care of one of the ghosts while they chase after the other. This is one of the many points in the game where you just have to scan around the stage with your PKE meter or nothing is going to happen. I found that mechanic kind of annoying, but it makes sense from an we're also paranormal investigators standpoint. You are led into a large reading room that the ghost fled to form a book golem. Once defeated, Egon informs the group that he is getting more PKE readings.
Ray exclaims that it's the Grey Lady, the first ghost that they had ever hunted.
You chase her through the library as traps are set off that again separate you from the rest of the Ghostbusters. After navigating the maze, you find Ray and have to dispatch a huge group of possessed flying books before taking on the two ghosts you chased in here. Upon defeating them, Egon lets you know the Grey Lady is with him, so Ray excitedly sets out to find her. After catching up with her, she sends more flying books after you, then disappears. After clearing out the distraction, Winston informs you that the Grey Lady was involved with a man called the Collector. He killed her and many other women for rare books. Seconds before he was hanged, he swore to return as Azaltor to keep watch over the library. After finding this out, you continue your pursuit of the Grey Lady by taking out her minions and trekking through the children's library.
Which, as you guessed, has the voices of ghost children, which is incredibly creepy.
You find a hidden library in the basement. After battling an elaborate book trap as well as several minion ghosts, the Grey Lady leads you through a hidden passageway behind a bookcase. You find a door with an electric lock that's not receiving power. As soon as you find the switch and throw it, you're attacked by another book golem. Upon defeating it, you go even deeper underneath the library, are again eluded by the Grey Lady, and are again attacked by large monstrosities created by burning coal and furnace doors. After defeating them, you find another secret passage that leads you to a scene where the Grey Lady is reading a book that inexplicably grabs her and flops her around, then puts her down. She goes right back to reading it. It turns out the book is the Gozerian Codex that she just gives to you and vanishes, then reappears and you have to fight her. Upon capturing her, an orb appears that transports you to the ghost world. Here you basically just go through portal after portal trying to get out. The portals lead you to monsters and slowly progress you through the world. You know you're going the right way when Ray falls out of a portal in front of you and instructs you to use your slime tether to build bridges to get you through. Slime tethering is kind of weird in that it's very specific in how you use it. As you progress, Egon contacts you, theorizing that Alyssa is central to everything that has been happening so far. The conversation ends with you getting separated from Ray and being forced to fight off a cultist ghost alone in a hall of mirrors. Upon capturing it and leaving the hall, you continue choosing portal after portal to go through as you fight off minions. Finally, you find the big stairwell Egon was talking about and are informed that that is the way out. After taking out several flying books and awkwardly slime tethering your way to the exit portal, you are taken to a cross-dimension of the ghost world in the public library, where you fight Azaltor. This is your first intense fight, as first you have to use slime to neutralize the black slime protecting his mask, then the capture stream to remove said mask, then finally attack his exposed eye.
He is a bastard.
First, you have to get far enough away from him to avoid his streams of black slime and dodge his attempts to whack at you that just knock you over. After you defeat him, Winston contacts you and you jump through a portal to meet him in the public library. After finding a large symbol that you believe you have deactivated, you return to Ghostbusters HQ to investigate the Gozerian Codex you now have. You find out the symbol signifies a path to great power from Sumerian rituals. You also find out there's a statue on loan at the museum from Shandor Corporation. Shandor had done renovations on the public library and also the museum, so it's decided that you have to go investigate the museum during the opening of the Gozer exhibit that night, sending Venkman in as Alyssa's date to keep an eye on Peck while you and the rest of the Ghostbusters enter through a basement service entrance. The first thing you do is neutralize black slime with your slime blower and follow a trail of packing material to a triggered event that shows a ghost is roaming. You find the curator of the museum, who leads you to a possessor on the elevator that immediately possesses Ray. You have to cover him with slime to remove the ghost, then capture it. After which you confront Peck, who insists you need to be removed from the building, just as Alyssa is conveniently possessed. Other ghosts come flying out of the statue and possess Peck as well.
You are now fighting ghosts with the ability to possess your teammates.
This isn't hard to deal with as you have the slime blower, but it adds a new type of strategy to the fight as you have to depossess teammates and bystanders while fighting. After you've captured all the possessors, Alyssa is kidnapped by a random ghost, and you are then sent with Winston and Venkman to find Alyssa, while Ray goes with the curator to the security office. You fight through several bits of an ancient civilization exhibit, destroying everything that stands in front of you. This is where the mechanic of the game that keeps track of all the damage you do gets ridiculous.
This counter is basically just for achievements for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 versions of the game.
You get to a gate that you have to have Ray open. It leads into a Civil War exhibit where, of course, you have to battle the entirety of a ghostly reenactment. Once you've captured all the ghosts, Ray contacts you from the security office, where you find out about the board members of the museum from the 1900s. The chairman was Cornelius Wellesley, whom you recognize as the ghost that nabbed Alyssa.
Rumor has it the board conducted all kinds of nasty rituals using these women.
You continue your pursuit of Alyssa and her ghostly captor in the ancient Egyptian exhibit, when you're attacked and have to close off the black slime portals they use to enter our world. Immediately after you complete this task, you find that there are more Civil War ghosts terrorizing civilians in the museum. You move on to the next room, and not to waste any time, you fight more ancient statue minions and Civil War ghosts. After you defeat them, Ray informs you about a door that doesn't seem to be there on the west wall. The ghosts mask the door as a wall, which you can counteract with your slime blower. You make your way through more back rooms in the museum into another exhibit where you encounter the chairman and Alyssa a few more times, where they flee and you fight a room full of minions until you come across Ray again. He believes the ghost is heading back to the Gozer exhibit. You get there, and Venkman has a tender but brief moment with Alyssa as the chairman shows up and then immediately escapes. Fortunately, without her. The mayor and Peck show up to berate the Ghostbusters, while at the same time telling them to take care of the problem in a scene very similar to the cats marrying dogs mass hysteria bit from the first film. You're told immediately to use your PKE, which tells you to destroy the Gozerian statue right in front of you. This reveals a stairway to tunnels under the museum. Equipping your PKE meter shows a very obvious stream of spirit energy heading through them. Following the spirit energy leads you to another fake wall, where you are given the Meson Collider and Overload Pulse to add to your proton pack.
This is a very powerful weapon against basically everything, which is good news because you're going to be facing the chairman.
You find a column pumping black slime that the chairman ghost comes out of. Prepare for a fight that essentially has more minions to it and obstacles constantly in your way than difficulty of the boss itself. The chairman will pop up and you can get a few shots in, then it submerges in black slime and you have to fight off minions before the ghost comes back to fight again. You have to target an eye lodged into the chairman's chest. Repeat the cycle until the ghost is dead.
I never liked this mechanic. I mean, I understand the idea of having minions around as a distraction while you're fighting the main baddie and taking damage from all sides and trying to minimize that, but delivering a few hits onto the bad guy and then he vanishes and you have to clear all the minions before he comes back and then, you know, repeat said thing. It just seems kind of pointless to me.
Upon defeating the chairman, it fades to Peck berating you in the museum lobby and threatening to shut you down and sacrificing his own job to do it. During his entire rant, Egon is scanning him with his PKE meter, which obviously is going apeshit. He says outright, "We need to keep an eye on Peck." You return to the station to find out the symbol you saw at the museum was relevant to finding where the plot will go next by revealing that everywhere you've been is part of a mandala, and the nodes so far are the library, the museum, the Hotel Sedgwick, and some random place in the middle of the Hudson River. The plan is to reinvestigate the hotel since you didn't find the mandala node there the first time, while Venkman investigates Peck. You go to the Hotel Sedgwick, where they find that the building has been marked off limits, including to the Ghostbusters.
Especially the Ghostbusters.
You enter anyway, finding the place is under repair after your previous visit. You see residual spirit echoes that Egon assures you are harmless. You hear random noises in a stairwell and find the hotel manager, who is terrified of the ghost shadows. When you follow him back into the lobby, you see the spirit of a man and woman, the woman holding a large knife behind her back. The hotel manager explains the ghost was the Spider Witch, a woman who did horrible things in a room on the 12th floor. With no power going to the elevators and the stairwell destroyed, you have to find a way to turn the power back on. You make your way through the kitchen and find the generator room. Unfortunately, the room is full of water, with a power cable laying right in the middle of it, so you have to slime tether the cable out of the water. When you re-enter the kitchen, you're attacked by a group of ghosts.
One of which is the Masked Poisoner. He has absolutely no relevance to the story, but Ray mentions him anyway.
Upon clearing out the kitchen, you head to the elevator to go to the 12th floor. It is decided that the exact location of the concentrated PK energy that you are searching for is on the 13th floor, which the manager insists doesn't exist. To investigate, you go with Egon to the 12th floor, while Ray and Winston go to the 14th floor. After your ride up in the elevator, where Egon explains what a mandala is, you see the Spider Witch ghost again with her male victim, still holding the knife behind her back. After you exit, you find out the Spider Witch hung her victims from the ceiling, drained them of blood, and destroyed her room in the process. Her atrocious acts were performed in room 1221, which you start your search of. As you head down the hall towards the room, you find spiderwebs covering the walls, floors, and ceilings, as well as egg sacs hanging everywhere, and you start hearing the voice of the Spider Witch, taunting you as her spider minions approach you. Egon tells you that the ghost world is starting to break into the real world, and you've lost contact with the other Ghostbusters. You fight more spider minions, then Egon notices the door is missing, even though there's an odd, webbed part of the wall the exact size and shape of a door.
Okay.
So you reveal the door and continue to get taunted by the Spider Witch until you find yourself in a cavern where she's been waiting for you. You just explore the cavern until she decides to surprise attack you. After you do some damage to her, she runs off to feed. If you don't stop her, she'll have all her health back.
The only issue I took with this fight is you don't move very quickly, and the time window for the Spider Witch to regenerate all of her health is kind of short. But this is kind of balanced out by the fact that if you just unload on her, she goes down fairly quickly.
Upon defeating her, you find yourself in the ballroom with the mandala node disabled. Without a moment's notice, you're on a boat headed to that area in the middle of the Hudson River that was mentioned earlier. Your mission is to stop the final mandala node. When you find the area, Ray claims it's called Shandor Island.
Really? Shandor Island. That random place in the middle of the Hudson River just so happened to be Shandor Island. You couldn't deduce that whenever you were looking at the map, could you? Even though you already knew it existed. The island that was named after the guy that's been, pretty relevant for everything that's been happening so far since, the first second of the entire adventure.
So anyway, Ray stays on the boat as you get on Shandor Island. Egon gives you a brief history on the place, then you have to utilize your slime tether to open your way through a minecart railway that leads to Shandor's castle. As you approach it, you hear a demonic scream and are attacked by gargoyles from earlier in the game. After they're taken care of, you find that the door of the castle is shut tight, and in order to open the door, you have to find a crank to pull the chain attached to it, which you find in a hedge maze.
This kind of stuff is annoying to me, but if you really don't want to deal with the maze aspect of this,
you can just burn down the hedges with your weapons. After finding the crank and slime tethering it so it turns, you're attacked by minions before you can get to the door. Once you enter the castle and trigger a scripted event, you find a painting of who looks to be Alyssa, when it is in fact Ivo Shandor's mother, painted in 1885. They put it together that Alyssa is a member of the Shandor family. She was adopted, so she wouldn't know that. To finish lining up all the connections between the two other main characters in the game, Egon mentions that this was set up by Peck, who had personally recommended Alyssa to curate the Gozer exhibit.
Duh.
After making this obvious revelation, you find a huge statue spewing black slime that a small group of spirits are worshipping. Of course, after you notice them, they notice you, and you have to fight them. Upon capturing them and defeating the minions they spawn, you go directly to where the mandala node is and fall right into a trap, separating you from the group, and 2 or 3 ghosts appear and capture the remaining 3 Ghostbusters.
So let me get this straight. Without the new guy or Ray, Egon, Winston, and Venkman are all completely worthless whenever it comes to battling ghosts. I mean, in the film, before they even hired Winston, they were acting like it was just a normal day-to-day thing when they were doing it 24/7.
You are now alone in a sewer level. You're tasked with investigating the area and finding the other 3 Ghostbusters. You fight a bunch of minions and don't do anything of real consequence until you get to the first kind of confusing puzzle I found. You have to open a gate to drain black slime from the catacombs, but it's not entirely clear how you do it. It took me a little while to realize you had to slime tether weights into anchors on the floor to get the gate to lower, and it's very specific in how you have to aim the slime tether so it will go without you messing with it a little bit. After you lower the gate and the slime drains out, you're faced with a black slime monster that you simply just have to shower with the slime blower. But like all monsters to this point, he's accompanied by minions. After you take everything out in the room, you can continue through a maze of narrow tunnels, still trying to find the other Ghostbusters. Once you find a path that gives you really only one direction to go, Winston contacts you and lets you know he's in a dark place and he can't move. He claims to be able to hear you as you get closer. This part is kind of ridiculous at the point where your PKE meter even says, Winston is inside this foul device.
There's not even a more subtle way they could have put this. I mean, the PKE meter interface isn't really that descript. I mean, they could have just said, human life form detected. Though they would have had to change the PKE meter throughout the game, so it makes sense that whenever you approach a human, it would say human life form detected. But it doesn't, so I guess this entire thing is just for plot convenience. And as far as plot convenience goes, I can let it go. But just this once.
As Winston is asking question after question, with no Egon to shut him up, a black slime portal appears in a wall, and you have to fight off the ghosts that come through. After dispersing them and continuing on, Egon contacts you to let you know he is nearby and to find him. Thankfully, a ghost opens a door for you to find and rescue Egon. Before you get a chance to look for Venkman, you predictably have to fight several more ghosts as a large portal opens in the floor and a smaller one opens in the wall. After defeating all the minions, Egon expresses his admiration for Shandor's abilities, then decides to advance the plot by searching for Venkman, who very promptly begins suggesting unenthusiastically that you help him. After taking a lift up and finding Venkman just standing there waiting for you, you continue down a hallway to find a machine designed to align dimensions. In order to stop it, you have to use your slime tether to lock 3 spheres to the ground that, while moving, appear to be creating the field that moves the machine. Once successful, the planets align anyway and the room fills with black slime, leading you to have to make your way up to the top of the tower so you can watch the machine collapse and a juvenile slore emerge.
That of a giant slore! Many Shubs and Zools knew what it was to be roasted in the depths of the slore that day, I can tell you.
This part made any issues I had with the game go away, because it was a part that wasn't directly lifted from the movie. It was something that referenced the film and expanded on it. The slore was used originally to demonstrate that Lewis was indeed possessed by the Keymaster, but now you actually get to see a slore. It took that idea and it expanded on it.
The Ghostbusters will lead the fight against the slore and have you just run around the room to bait it. Once the slore goes down, the last mandala node is deactivated. All the ghosts are trapped in the mandala and the island has started to sink, which means it's time to leave. You automatically get on the boat and make a dramatically fast exit. When you return to the station, Janine rushes you and tells you that Alyssa was kidnapped and the containment grid was shut down again. This point is driven home by a news story that just so happens to come on the TV that just turned on by itself. The Ghostbusters find out that Manhattan is being evacuated due to tremors that are continuously rocking Central Park.
Here we are, your final mission, Central Park.
It opens with the Ecto-1B heading to the scene, with tombstones popping out of the ground and a large structure that the ghosts seem to gravitate to rising into the sky. The Ghostbusters then discuss their plan of action, opting to find a way to get the Ecto-1 into the park so they can make use of the Super Slammer, making this joke, which easily became my favorite joke in the game.
Maybe the trainee should drive. Nah.
I fucking hate arbitrary driving stages. This game dangles that hate carrot in front of your face, and then whenever you get a hold of it, it replaces it with a 12-ounce T-bone steak.
They send you over the wall to open the gate from the other side. As you explore the cemetery that has popped up, it is explained that even though you disabled the mandala entirely, the spirit energy released from the shutdown containment unit was able to work as an alternate energy source for Shandor's Supreme Destructor form. The cemetery is essentially just a big maze that you don't really get attacked in, except as a device to let you into the mausoleum. You have to go through it to find tunnels underneath it to reach the gate control that, since no one in this game uses their hands, requires slime tethering. As the gate opens for the Ecto-1, Ray decides to join you on your side of the wall, and you trigger an event where you're attacked by Reaper Ghosts, minions, and walking tombstones?
This game has a large number of different enemies. Ghosts, minions like gargoyles, flying skulls, walking tombstones. I don't know, it just seems kind of goofy and out of place. I mean, it works, but then again, it doesn't? Well, moving on.
After this encounter, you know you're going in the right direction when you hear ghostly taunts and another battle starts with more ghosts, minions, and walking tombstones, that upon completion triggers a door to open that leads you to the crypts in the lower levels of the cemetery. You are led where to go by having spikes jut out of the ground where you're not supposed to go. It leads you to a large door that slams shut as a ghost yanks one of the keys out of its keyholes and takes off. Obviously, you now must retrieve that key and get it back in the hole. After fighting off a few grave fiends, you stumble across the key, but find it's too heavy to carry, so you have to slime tether it back to the door and move on.
There's a short cutscene where Ray wonders why Gozer came back as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and hasn't taken on a more effective form.
One destructor form per god per dimension. I like it.
You emerge from the tunnel that Ray had his revelation in search of the other Ghostbusters. Once you reach an ominous-looking tree, you're faced with more ghosts and more minions, and once they're defeated, you face two possessed furnaces that you have to get past to fight another possessed furnace that plows through a wall in front of you. It brings more ghosts with it. Once you take everything down, you follow Ray to a gate, where just over the fence, the other Ghostbusters and the Ecto-1 are stopped at a gate as well. You have to shoot away skulls underneath a weight to open the gate. This leads you to an underground tunnel that you and Ray have to go through. You face walking tombstones and grave fiends that come out of coffins that are sticking out of the ceiling. Not too much of a threat at this point in the game.
You emerge at the worst fucking part of the game.
In front of the Ecto-1 is an indestructible gate, and you're stuck on the other side with Ray. Egon basically tells you how fucked you are at this point, since the stone angels that decide to attack you are incredibly deadly and precise. Your attacks don't affect them at all, and the only way to fight them off is to slime tether them into the indestructible gate so the collision causes both things to break. This would be great if they weren't all flying over the gate, effectively having to tether them to the opposing wall, then to the gate, and hoping you don't get knocked over by the time you do that, which, guess what? You will. If you haven't seen a mission failed yet in the game, you will hear at least once, unless you look this up beforehand. I played this part, and I tried to use my capture beam as well, and guess what? Shit didn't fucking work, because I'd grab them, try to slam them against the gate, and it would just destroy them on the ground. I got desperate and tried to get the opposing wall to yank the gate off. That didn't work. I just didn't know what the fuck to do. Fuck! Fuck!
There's always one fucking part of an otherwise great game that says, here's everything that you know, everything that you've learned about this game. I'm a shit on it, okay? And this is part of the game, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. Well, guess what? I couldn't deal with it. So I consulted the internet, and I found that there was just just a simple, stupid way to get through this part, and I'm just pissed off that I didn't think of it.
You run back and forth in front of the gate and let the little fuckers just collide into it. Once the Stone Angel threat is dispersed inexplicably and the Ecto-1 can get through the gate, it's stopped again by the next gate. But this one is simple enough. You just slime tether the Ecto-1 to it and it yanks it open. This gate leads to an underground passageway that takes you to another large locked door, because if there's anything this game likes, it's repetitiveness. The first thing you notice here is large statues on either side of the door, but they don't do anything.
Yet.
Winston suggests the same solution for this door as the last door, slime tethers. This time, however, the door doesn't like it. It fights back and kills the Ecto-1B. This triggers ghosts to appear that you have to capture. Once that is done, The statues come to life and you have to destroy them and slime tether their heads to the glowing keyholes on either side of the door. To serve as a distraction while you're doing this, a huge stampede of walking tombstones come your way, but are easily dispatched so you can open the final door that leads you to where Alyssa and Peck are tied up. The mayor appears behind you and is revealed to be possessed by Evo Shandor. They use Peck to distract the Ghostbusters long enough to recharge his spirit energy. But when that didn't work, he sent Peck in to shut off the containment grid to gain energy from. Alyssa was brought in for her Shandor blood, and Gozer was brought in to actually do the job, but failed, now for a second time.
The nice touch here is that the skull of Gozer that's on fire has Slavica Joven's hairstyle from when she played Gozer in the first film.
Shandor shares his decision that instead of worshipping a god, he will become one. This is when the Ghostbusters slime him so that Shandor is forced out of the mayor's body. This is also when the final fight begins. Shandor floats in between two shield generators. The shield generators open and close, and you can attack him while they're closed, but when they open again, his shield reappears and he regenerates his health. It becomes clear that you have to destroy the generators. Once you do, a portal opens and you have to put all your capture streams on him and wrangle him into it, which you get sucked into as well. Now in the Ghost world, you have to take on Shandor's Destructor form. This form also has shields that regenerate every time he drops onto the stage and pops back up in the center. Once he's weak enough, the 5 Ghostbusters cross his streams to destroy Shandor, get propelled back into the real world where they rescue Alyssa and Peck, bring the mayor back around, and Slimer interrupts a romantic moment between Venkman and Alyssa. The credits roll, and during that, you hear the chants of the crowd before the Ghostbusters tell you they have one too many Ghostbusters in New York, but they're willing to sell you a franchise deal in another location.
I found this game was able to spook you out by combining creepy music with whispers of ghosts and spirit energy to create a chilling atmosphere that really felt like it pulled you into the game. Darkness was a common element that was used, but it was used very effectively because you could still see where you were going and what you were doing, and it still had that creepy situation feeling to it. Another effective technique that they used was jump scares. They used it sparsely, which means throughout the game you were never numb to it because they didn't use it enough for you to get used to it and break your immersion of that sort of thing. Now there was one immersion breaking factor, and that was the loading screens. You would see the loading screen for a good 35 to 40 seconds every time you saw it. That did bother me a little bit, but not enough to ruin the game for me. Now I felt that the graphics of this game were great. The character models, the environments, it was all really good. Everybody looked the way they should have, you know, they resembled their characters, which was great. The settings, like the Hotel Sedgwick, Ghostbusters HQ, the public library, places that you saw in the movie were accurately represented, which is very important. And then stuff that was created basically just for the game, like Shandor Island and the Ghost World, they were very different in feel, but they fit the theme, they fit together, they felt like they belonged in this world. Now, another thing is the increase in difficulty. It was very gradual and very comfortable. It felt like the difficulty increased as your knowledge of the game and your ability to handle it became better. They didn't throw too much at you at one time. You would gain a new ability, you would learn how to use it, and then you would have to apply it. And that would just sort of set it in your mind as, this is how I'm going to need to use this in future, which worked very well. This game was very basic, in that the basics were very intuitive. Catching ghosts has a very good flow to it. You know, you use your proton stream to weaken them, then capture stream to slam them, and then traps to trap them. It was just a very simple flow, and there's no way you could, you know, confuse that. The humor, the comedy, the interaction in this game was all spot on, right where it should have been. There were some dry bits, there were some bits that were right in your face. The characters interacted just the way you expect they would if you've been a seasoned fan of the Ghostbusters, and you'd also get a chuckle out of it if you're new to this sort of stuff. My game time for it was 8 hours, and I really enjoyed it. But being that the game has very simple gameplay elements, I'd have felt if it was any longer, it definitely would have overstayed its welcome. This game is basically, if there's a ghost, capture it. If there's an obstacle in your way, find a way through it or around it. That's Ghostbusters, the video game.